Hello and welcome back. We are playing as the Necrocratic warlord of Eastern France. That's Eastern France. Western France is over here. We're still working on unifying France, but that is, of course, the philosopher king Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, who is the first necrocratic ruler of France. What do you mean necrocracy? Well, this guy has been assassinated, then he went into exile, then he came back from exile. His son disappeared. No one said what happened to him. He's just gone. He's got a new son, presumably one he loves more, to replace the Industrialist son. This is Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, the necrocratic king of France / Baguette Centaur. So, last episode, we tried to cut off Austria's market. We fought Austria a couple times in trying to do the journal entry for returning the natural French borders, which we got, which part of what we got from that is we have every culture pretty much unified under us. We were trying to cut off Austria's market by taking, we were trying to take Slavonia, but we accidentally took Slovenia, which is a rookie, non-Balkan living person mistake, / we made that mistake because our eyes were filled with necrocratic rage. And so that's kind of where our situation is now. And kind of going into this now, we can declare war. There's a lot of moves we can make. Notably, we are kind of keeping an eye on, in particular, our new agitator, who is a humanitarian, which is what we are looking for because they do support multiculturalism. We are hoping that they start a movement to enact multiculturalism. This is a little bit of a digression, but the poor people of French Brunswick are isolated from the market, so we are going to try and return them to the market, and the way we're going to do that is by dominioning Prussia. Now, normally you would just vassalize in this situation because we don't care about the infamy, but we are actually hoping that Prussia starts gobbling up all these little miners and manages to do something good / pull them into the market using their event chain. They're aggressive against these guys, and I think if we make them our dominion and they start gobbling up all these people, this will be good for us. It'll clean up our borders here in Eastern France over here, and so we are going to go after a dominion on them. Russia, East Indies, Ukraine, we don't really care who sides with them. Very much. I mean, I guess we care a little bit, but that is a lot of fronts, which is very obnoxious. It's very, very, very obnoxious. I guess we're just going to mobilize all? That is an obnoxious amount of fronts. So we are going to set in, we're going to assign to fronts and try and make do, I guess. So it looks like no one's coming to help Prussia, and this war is going to pop off. We did put in annexation on a couple of their defensive pact guys, to try and clean up the borders of Eastern France. But here we have enact liberties guaranteed, is being supported by the agitator Leonidas Ryu, which is going to be, this is the guy that we need in order to pass multiculturalism. So we're going to try and just pass, the laws that he wants as best we can. So we're going to go guarantee libs, even though this is going to radicalize, in particular, the petite bourgeoisie. Now, I know what you're thinking. We don't really care about the petite bourgeoisie. You should. That is the interest group of the necrocratic ruler himself. All hail the supreme necrocratic Bonaparte, Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. He's been assassinated. He's been exiled. Can't get rid of him. And as these guys get radicalized, they will get kicked out of government, and we will lose a good share of legitimacy. I don't know what to say, other than I hope that he doesn't eat my brains. The good old zombie necrocratic Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. Hopefully he leaves our brains alone. Well, that was easy. We're also adding in a decent amount of construction in addition to subjugating Prussia. Now let's get that nice looking color. Oh, let's get this out of the way. Yeah, looks like things are coming together here in Eastern France. We just need to take quite a bit more territory. Hopefully, Prussia does it for us. And we still have some of these, enforcing down on these guys to annex these little bits over here. But otherwise, things are coming up. We're adding construction. We're going to be at 2K soon. The filthy good, super good 2K. And we have not been eaten by Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, and on top of this, guaranteed liberties is passing at record pace with the guy who is kind of the agitator. So maybe this is kind of the way you need to look at it. You need agitators to try and push laws through. A little bit interesting. So it looks like the US is picking on Mexico a little bit, which is a bit rude of them. So I think we'll continue on, unpurchasing that Louisiana but big nice with President Frederick Douglass. I'm a fan of that. But we're going to go after Missouri, and we're going to go just draw a straight line up the Mississippi. I hope that's the Mississippi. Mississippi might go this way. I'm not exactly sure. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out the proper borders before we finish this off, but I'm pretty sure we're going to need Missouri. Ooh, this auto pulls in the UK. Okay, let's just take a look. What is the situation? They have a defensive pact with the UK, and so this is a bit of an interesting situation. Do you have any subjects we can declare on instead? Because we'd rather not fight both of you at the same time unless we're using you to void a trade agreement, and we don't. But we can, for example, dow on, South Australia instead, which is just 2 provinces. If we dowed on South Australia instead, for example, then we could fight just the UK, and then we could fight the United States to kind of get rid of our thing on the UK, but I think we're just going to go for another, easy war, like the one against Prussia here, and instead go after a puppet on Ukraine, which will add 14 million accepted pops to our market that we could siphon off. We haven't been able to, siphon off these pops because they're not accepted, and so I think this Ukrainian one might be a little bit easier. I really don't want to have to go into the conscripts. We're trying to expand the construction here. We're trying to have a bit of a come up. We can't go after them either. So we're going to come in here and instead sort by. We're already sorted by rank, and we're just going to look for the biggest one that we can puppet that we do not currently have a puppet. Well, there are subject, 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 truce, subject, 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 Spanish Philippines. Is that really the biggest? And then Bavaria, which is a subject, and then Grand Duchy of Finland, and then Baden, which I think is a subject, and Peru, Bolivia, which again, subject. So we could go after Mexico and look to just puppet Mexico. I guess Mexico's the biggest one left. And if someone joins against them, great. And if they somehow back down against us, I mean, it looks like the US is going to be taking some dirt off of them. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to resolve all this, but maybe we can get a little bit of a sneaky puppet on Mexico. And this will resolve before the United States one will. I don't think that's how that'll work, but even still, puppeting the pieces will still be pretty good, and so we'll just go for this one. Here we have another absolutely insane event in the revolution that is coming to preserve National Guard. Notably, enacting guaranteed liberties has absolutely flown, but this event, reprimand the general and reject the plan, armed forces gets our general is disrespected permanently with minus interest group approval. We cannot do that. We will just, use this. But it's also nuts that that's the, primary choice. Just permanently getting a -2. And we get guaranteed liberties, which nukes this. And so now we will hopefully get a movement from that same boyo. He's supporting that, which is, this guy here, Enlightened Despotate. Can we put this back in Gov? Are you still mad? Oh, you'll accept coming back into Gov because you're not insurrectionary anymore. Fantastic. But we are trying to get this guy, this gentleman here, to pass multiculturalism, so that's why we pass guaranteed libs first, and we get our landings coming in all over the place here on Mexico, so hopefully... Oh, did they white peace with the US? That's nuts if that actually got pulled off, but we'll be getting in here on Mexico and enforcing on them shortly. So the US decided not only were they not going to dust up Mexico, but they are also choosing to fight the undead minister of France. That is, of course, Western France. It's not yet full France, but he wants to have a little bit of a go at the philosopher King Louis Napoleon Bonaparte instead of taking Mexican land, which we're going to get all of, and then we're going to have Mexico as a puppet to help us out with this. This seems like a horrible mistake, and we will, of course, be unpurchasing that Louisiana as best we can, which, of course, is the goal, and since they just had a defensive pact with the UK, and not an offensive pact, the UK doesn't auto-join here. They've initiated something and they're already worried. It's just like when the little brother hits their older brother and then they're like, oops, my bad, I didn't mean it, but you can't unring that bell, my guy. So as usual, the younger brother went crying to mommy and daddy, and by mommy and daddy, I mean respectively Great Britain and Two Sicilies. So this is a bit of a big war. We have a huge amount of conscription going. This is going to be super expensive. So we're going to try and figure out how to make it work. It looks like this war is going to go through. In terms of what we've demanded, we did double check the Louisiana Purchase. We saw that it did not include Illinois, but it stretches up like this. So this is what we've put in on the US, and then we put in a bunch on the UK, going for the Malaya Treaty Port, the Zhejiang Treaty Port, which will actually be quite nice because it allows us to force trade with Great Qing. British North Cameroon, transferring Bhutan, and returning American Oklahoma, mainly just because we had enough maneuvers kind of remaining. And the reason we went for all of these is because, of course, this is where the tea's at, and we're trying to deny all of the tea as much as possible for Great Britain. So we'll see how this war goes. It is a little bit of a nail biter. We are kind of having a disadvantage on all fronts here, but the Mexico War is going to be over soon. So the war is a little bit of feels bad right now. We're pushing in a couple spots. Maybe we can enforce on England. We're pushing here in Two Sicilies, and we're hoping to try and make some ingress. We have a landing going in on the US, but we're losing on both of these fronts. And so it is a little bit tense, especially with this looming over our head. We might have to wind down construction or increase taxes, but we did get malaria prevention, which is a huge inflection point for us because we will start colonizing absolutely everywhere. And we will get an enormous chunk of all of this as a consequence. And it is based on incorporated pops. We'll also do over here, too, for good measure. Just everywhere we can. I guess we have all these islands. Let's just kind of go after all these islands. Just absolutely everything. And this is a huge inflection point for us. I think that given kind of the trajectory of the way things are going, we maybe want to prep doing trench work as far as the tech goes. There are a ton of really good production techs. We've been going ahead of time, and we don't want to go ahead of time in the society tech because we're not even nat spreading anymore. So we want to leave the society tech alone for a little bit and, you know, kind of start to go prepare going ahead of time here. So we could either do the electricity route or we can prep going trench works. And I think we're going to kind of prep going trench works because I think having an advantage in this will allow us to either have a smaller military or not have to expand our military. We expanded our military for this war, which is part of why we're experiencing so much pain. But, you know, with pain comes, yeah, I mean, the little brother just... he whacked us, and then he got mommy and daddy. So, yeah, maybe we should be still humiliating. We haven't been doing it as aggressively, but this war is looking a little bit tough. Just as long as we can keep him off the capital, though, I think we can squeeze it out in the end. So, as this huge, you know, deficit kind of looms over us, although the deficit is easing up a little bit, something that we're considering taking out that I haven't talked about that we've been doing in the background here is we've been bankrolling the East India Company for a little bit, as well as the Dutch East Indies. The idea behind this is we would be big happy if they just continue to conquer, you know, in their respective regions, and they can because they are both dominions, which is kind of nice for us, you know, if they can look to pick up land. And so we're just looking to give them a little bit of extra juice. Also, if they use it to construct this sort of stuff, it is something that we're happy with because they're inside of our markets, and I think it's worthwhile, but maybe not as, you know, kind of bankruptcy is on the loom. I think we can hold this one out, but and it looks like we're getting a little bit of an enforcement here. We enforce on the Two Sicilies to conquer Lazio, which, since we're Catholic, is going to give us a boatload of authority. And we enforce on Great Britain and the United States. So just taking a quick look through it, we're getting Lazio, which notably has Vatican City, which, is it not going to give us authority? It should be giving us authority. It has to employ up, but it only gives you authority and influence if you are Catholic, which, if I'm not mistaken, we are Catholic as our state religion, which actually makes Catholic the best religion in the game, except for the memes. For the memes, it's probably atheist. And, of course, we are de-purchasing that Louisiana there. Now, they should still have market access for now, but we will work towards getting rid of Texas and these two to kind of deny market access to absolutely wreck them as we continue on de-purchasing that Louisiana there. Unmanifesting their destiny, if you will. And, of course, on the UK, we worked hard to continue to deprive them of their beloved tea, as is our way. we have now brought them down to 200 sell orders from tea plantations. They have Siak, Bali, Belungan, and British Gabon. We will, of course, be looking to take these from them in the near future, and we're doing okay on the money situation. And so, overall, things are doing quite nicely. Now, we do want to go for another bit of a war, and I was told that Eastern Mali no longer gives the bonus to everyone for the Mosque of Djenne, and so I think we might just be checking that out and just declaring on Messina just for the purpose of trying to figure it out. And so we will go conquer Eastern Mali. We will also put as a secondary war goal to puppet them, to make them kind of willing to back down. There's no way they win this war, but we'll put in some other war goals or something. We just want Eastern Mali. It doesn't really matter if we get something else, but this is gonna be the way. So it looks like somehow, unfortunately, we lost our humanist. But another thing that I thought was worth noting, or is pretty interesting, is you can get people with the slaver ideology to enact slavery. This is not a historical figure, and so if you want to return to slavery, or you want to go to slavery in a state that doesn't start with it, now you can do it in patch 1.3, which is a bit interesting for, I guess, the pro-slavery people, or the people who wanted to do, the slaver meme runs. So Liberia and Fuda-Jalon made the poor mistake of joining Messina, so it looks like we're just going to annex all of them. So, as goes. Starting to get a little bit of a nice, clean blue border here as we are annexing these boyos. And taking a look at Mosque of Djenne, it looks like it's still just giving education access writ large, a bonus or penalty to education access for all pops. It doesn't say pops in the state. Maybe it hasn't updated the tooltip, this sort of thing. We'll have to discover in, 280 weeks once it gets completed. And we're also kind of winding up this native uprising here, and then we'll find ourselves another good, righteous war to declare upon the living, since we're the undead. So we found ourselves a feminist agitator, but unfortunately, even with the feminist agitator, we can't go for women's suffrage, and the reason why is nobody's voting in this technocracy, and so I think it's time we bid ourselves goodbye to technocracy, because we actually really do want women's suffrage. Now, we could, in theory, swap back to technocracy, but I have a feeling, a sneaking suspicion, that communism is in the near future for the French, as it were, and so we're kind of in between wealth voting and census suffrage in terms of which we would prefer. I think that, kind of taking a look at it, we want to have the Industrialists, the Intelligentsia, and the trade unionists all powerful, and I think that this will be easiest to do probably on census suffrage rather than wealth voting or universal suffrage. With universal suffrage, we'll get a little bit too caked up of a trade unionist, and with wealth voting, I think the trade unionists won't get powerful enough. I think this is, as Goldilocks, just right, so we'll go for that. Also, in terms of wars, I think that Ukraine is the biggest minor power available, so we're just going to go after a puppet on them. They're also adjacent to our territory, and so that one will feel pretty good, and then we'll just come in and we'll put a bunch of guys on the front, and if Russia or something joins, we're super okay with this, because we would like to take another go at Russia anyway. It looks like we're starting to make a dent in kind of the loyalist to radicals ratio. We do have a slightly lower taxes, and I think that perhaps this is a little bit more important in patch 1.3 here, where revolutions and law passing both seem a little bit tougher, and so getting the approval rating of your interest groups up higher might just be worth the trade-off of, being able to construct a little bit less and stimulating your economy more. Notably, we have a ton of landings coming in, so this war is kind of over already. Nobody joined, and so we're going to be enforcing on Ukraine really quick. Also, on the industrial front, we are generally in the queue, looking to find anything that's under 51, and then kind of push it to 51. In addition to, some of our auto queue, you can see the smattering of random stuff. We put up a synthetic plant because we got aniline. The glass works in Flanders. Again, we're just kind of kicking stuff up to 51, which is max economies of scale throughput bonus, and that's kind of the strategy informing our construction at the moment. In another twist of psychotic AI regarding war fronting, everyone got automatically unassigned from the Bezabiria front over to this front, which is, they were split roughly 50-50. I have no idea why the AI wanted to do this, but apparently it just wants us to push, you know, might against might, no landings. This is dishonorable. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Europe's starting to look the color it should, but we can't start another war yet after enforcing on Ukraine here because we have all of these native uprisings. We have, count them, 3 native uprisings going on currently. The natives don't really like being colonized. That's too bad. We're continuing on. We're also kind of making some pretty good progress towards getting rid of technocracy. Notably with technocracy, you are allowed to go to command economy from technocracy. And so if you wanted to do that, this might be an easier pathway to go command economy. But overall, it's, you know, it's kind of, don't like that. Of course, we have the guy on the other front. Not the, what is all this about? Frontage is weird, man. How fronts get assigned and all that. Well, I guess now we're losing on both fronts? We have a front we can get to. That's a little bit strange. So, really weird with the Ukraine one, too. I wonder if the front reassigning AI got worse than 1.3. I don't know. Maybe this is just the soup we're swimming in now. I don't know. The undead soup. So we have here gotten 2 more native uprisings and a Portuguese uprising, which is a little bit annoying. Because we can't go rampaging through Europe, because apparently we have to tend to the natives, and we're also stuck with all the troops we had mobilized, you know, for the war in Ukraine. Wow, that phrase feels wrong to use. But we have everyone still mobilized, and, like, these features are, you know, let's just say they displease the undead warlord, philosopher King Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. Let's just say that. So we have passed census suffrage, and so as a consequence, we are going to be trying to work up a lot of our institutions quite a bit, and notably, we're caring about home affairs, because we're trying to get more loyalists so that we can have, you know, the triple approval from the trade unionists, the industrialists, and the Intelligentsia. It's also going to be interesting to see, you know, on the back of this first election, after it resolves, how things look in terms of the clout, because this will kind of be a good metric for, you know, looking and thinking about the new law of technocracy, which I still think is probably pretty solid. And the question is does this plus 33% political strength of the engineers, who tend to either go trade unionist or industrialist, does this, you know, is this enough to try and get the trade unions powerful? And it'll be interesting to see if the trade unionists is about the same clout. I think they were like 12 or something before we passed the law, something like this. Now, this is not going to be enough bureaucracy to handle all the institutions we're putting in, so we're also going to put in a bunch more government administrations as we handle the rebels. You know, the sun never sets on our empire, though, so yeah, looking good, looking good. So it looks like the trade unionists actually get a lion's share of the vote. That's the FTSF, and then the Union of Rights, and then the Republican Party. So let's actually take a look what we can do in terms of legitimacy. And it doesn't look all that great because we need to keep the petite bourgeoisie in here, because Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, we're still a monarchy, and we have to keep them in power for both the monarchy bonus and the bonus that we are getting from, which is quite substantial, from the, I almost said the Mosque of Beijing, the Forbidden City here in Beijing, which is giving us 22 legitimacy from including the head of state and government. And so we can't really make a legitimate looking government and take out the petite bourgeoisie, and we don't dare get off a monarchy as long as the undead warlord himself is still on the throne. And so we will tolerate a rather low legitimacy, which is normally kind of one of the benefits you get from a voting system. Looking at the clout, they have the exact same clout. Maybe it still needs to recalculate, or is it, okay, there's the recalculation. And so with the recalculation, we are a lot closer to, you know, getting that triple balance between the Republican Party, the TSF, and the Democratic Alliance. And this is when we're on an SOL of 13, and generally it's kind of easy to hit in the middling to high teens, and it gets hard again in the 20s when you are on census suffrage. And so I guess, you know, maybe in particular with technocracy around, you know, the SOL of 20, maybe you can try and get this triple balance, and 20 is kind of an equilibrium you stall out at. And so maybe this is kind of a good idea or something to think about, you know, in terms of what we've been doing. But I think we're going to conclude this episode here. This episode, we got quite a lot done. We puppeted Ukraine and Mexico. I think the big story, though, is the return of the Lobster Mexico area, as we are kind of undoing this over here. We are de-purchasing Louisiana. We are unpurchasing the Louisiana. We are making, we are doing a recall of the Louisiana purchase. The product was defective, except it wasn't defective, but we want it back. And so that's kind of the big war between the US, two Sicilies, the UK, and us. Was a bit of a banger. It was a bit of a, well, it wasn't quite a close war, but I mean, it's as close as it's going to get with an empire like this, you know what I mean? We still have the Necrocratic warlord, slash philosopher king, except he's not a philosopher king anymore. He's just a straight up emperor. I'm a little curious what would happen if we just exiled him, because we can exile the agitator, I think. Or can we not? Nope, we can't exile the agitator. He's stuck in there as the emperor. Not that we would dare exile him. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And other than that, have a good day.